Howdy, y'all. And wait, I do that at the end. Anyway, howdy, y'all. Professor Parks, PhD here. I apologize for the crude camera. I'm using my laptop to film this. I'm currently fiddling with my setup yet again because, I like fiddling. Maybe that's the ADHD undiagnosed. I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling. Maybe that's also the ADHD undiagnosed. So what I wanted to talk about was the title of this video should be on procrastination, fear, and imposter syndrome. You may have noticed that if you're a fan of the channel, that you might notice that my posting schedule is really not scheduled at all. I post when I can post. Essentially, I post when my mood, when my ability to cope with my mental illness, which is bipolar, I post when I am emotionally able to do so. Frequently, I find myself not in a place where I can do so because of fear, and I'll get into that in a second. Today is actually going to be a kind of a productive day to me because I'm going to post this video. I'm going to post something on Troubling Tribune. I'm hoping to be able to post a lecture later today about the interstellar medium. And I hope to be able to post a public talk that was given here at the university about the Apollo program later today. So hopefully I will be able to do all of that, plus shower and shave. Who knows? So I hate using that word all the time. I've been struggling of late. I think I did a short about it a few days ago or a week ago, however long. And one of the reasons why I am, on top of all the usual shit that goes on, is I'm in something of a financial mess. Really not going to get into that. I'm not asking for anything. But the fact of the matter is I have an additional stressor, which is I am in something of a financial crisis. Obviously, from an objective standpoint, my crisis is worse than other people's, and more so or less than others. But for my baseline, it's a significant crisis. It's a crisis to the point that I realize that I actually need to get a second job. Living in this area has a very, very high cost of living. And even if even when I wasn't in this crisis, I was still considering getting a second job because, as I said, cost of living is ridiculous here. The problem that I encounter is how to get that. What is that second job? And I realize that given my situation, given my emotional state, given my current employment, things of that nature, the best shot I have is to actually try to make a go at it with YouTube. And so that is my hope. That is my current goal, is to get this channel growing, get this channel monetized, and try to get some additional income from that. I will probably go make an entire short video about that entirely. But the way that relates to this is that I recognize that in order to build my channel to the point that I can become monetized, which I'm only at this point, I think I'm 73 subs away from being able to get super chats and all that kind of good, yummy stuff. And then 500 and some odd before I can get ad revenue. The way for me to build my channel and grow from a financial standpoint, obviously, I want to do this because I want to get astronomy education out. I want to open people's eyes about global skepticism or globe skepticism or science skepticism. I'm hoping to branch out not just from the flat earth, but also climate change, which if you've been outside in the Northern Hemisphere lately, you can realize, yeah, it's a thing. We should probably start doing something about it. I need to grow this platform content. I need to put out content, and hopefully good content. And I need to do so in volume, but also at regular intervals. My schedule, which is non-existent at this point, needs to be more consistent. Obviously, I can't expect myself to change who I am at the drop of a hat. I cannot. It is not a reasonable expectation for me to change that kind of behavior overnight. So I'm going to have to grow into this. As the channel grows, I will also have to grow. Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this project will help me figure out different methods or coping skills that I can use to make myself get on a regular, more rigid, regular schedule. But I have thoughts on that. Maybe that's another video. But I want to talk about why it is that I don't have a schedule, why I cannot seem to hold to a set schedule of events. And this goes beyond just YouTube. This goes to my normal employment. This goes to gaming. I have, in my opinion, too often skipped out on games because I have just not been able to muster the energy to go to these things. So this whole chaotic nature of my schedule, one of the major reasons for it is related to procrastination, rather. But to the core of it, it's really fear. So for gaming or social events that I need to schedule, the fear is that I will make a complete ass of myself. That when I'm in the gaming group with folks I've known for years, in some cases decades, these are a solid group of friends, or at least I hope so. I'm still afraid that I am going to make a complete ass of myself, that I'm going to do something or say something, and that's going to provoke them to say, what the fuck? Why the fuck am I friends with this guy? He's a complete loser. He's an asshole. That still runs through my head, and that's related to imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, if you're unfamiliar, is the belief that you are an imposter, that you do not belong in the group that you are currently in. Normally, imposter syndrome is associated with professional arenas. So for myself, I have imposter syndrome in that when I'm in a room with other faculty members, I am afraid that I'm going to say something or do something that is going to clue all of them in on the fact that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know astronomy. I don't know teaching. And they're going to point at me, laugh, and more specifically, they're going to be like, you don't belong here. You need to get fired, blah, blah, blah. Irrational. It's an irrational belief. But that's imposter syndrome. And that also can fall into social situations, at least for myself, in that when I'm in a friends group, I don't feel like I deserve these friends, that I'm essentially an imposter. I am not friend worthy in a way, and it's an irrational fear. Obviously, like I said, with a few of these folks, I've been friends with them for decades. So if they haven't figured out that I'm a raging asshole by now, then really it's they're not gonna pick up on that anytime soon. So it's that fear. So it's that fear of that imposter syndrome that keeps me from doing things on a regular basis. Because for every interaction, be it a lecture that I need to post, a lecture that I need to do online, to do in person, a game that I need to attend to, or a live stream that I'd like to be a part of. Each interaction is a struggle. Each interaction is a battle. Some battles are easier than others. Obviously, I can come on live streams. Obviously, I can perform lectures. I can do lectures both on video and in person. So some days obviously are better than others. But the key point is that it's always fucking struggle. I always have to check in with myself and often fight myself, fight those voices in my head, demons, and tell them no. In one technique or another, I need to convince them to shut the fuck up and let me move forward. One of my techniques that I use quite frequently is the what if. What's the worst that could happen? If I put this out, for example, and it gets downvoted by 1 million people. One, I have no idea why 1 million people would watch this or how they would watch this. But if it got downvoted by 1 million people, or even worse, somehow YouTube decided in its infinite wisdom to nuke my channel, if I put this out here, how would that affect me? Obviously, that would affect me in a negative light, but can I survive it? Obviously, yes. There are recourses that I can take. If I wanted to get back on YouTube, create another channel and try again. If not, then I would find something else to do, or find some other outlet to get these out, these feelings out, or get my. I just remembered something I need to do. Get my astronomy outreach out. So that's the idea: is what's the worst that can happen? And really, if the worst that can happen is not death or homelessness, then really I need to do it. I feel that I can do it, that the cost is not so prohibitive that I cannot go ahead and do it. I just realized I owe Eddie something. Hopefully I can get that done tomorrow. See, procrastination. I'm afraid I'm afraid with the videos that I need to make for Eddie that I'm just going to mess those up. And since it's for someone important, it's compounded. Anyway, so I fight that with the, what if. I also, so that's the stick, I guess. I also try to use a carrot approach where I try to remind myself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And how would I feel if I don't do it? In the sense of, I put out this content because I want to make the world a better place in one way or another. And how would I feel if I didn't contribute that? How would I feel if I did not put out these thoughts, if I didn't put out this astronomy education, these thoughts on skepticism or whatever? What if I didn't put myself out there? How would I feel about that? Honestly, I'd be disappointed, because it is something I truly want to do. And if I don't do it, that means that I am running from it. I'm doing it because I'm too afraid to do it. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it doesn't. Fear sucks. Fear is a shitty fucking emotion. Yeah, I don't. I often wonder if I were put in a conventionally brave sort of situation where I had to stop a gunman from hurting someone, whether or not I would be brave enough to do it. Because I hear the line of when you're dealing with emotional trauma or emotional stress, you are so brave in tackling that. I've been told that I'm brave in making these videos and posting them. And it's hard for me to accept that, because I know of some folks who have seen wartime, who have trauma from battle, And I can't imagine what that's like, or, have, yeah, well, that gets into my feelings on this types of trauma. But, I don't feel that this is all that brave, I guess. That's probably negative thinking. I don't know. What I do know is I recognize that I would be motivated by fear. And that is kind of the story of my life, is that most everything that I have done in my life has been reactive. I do something because I'm afraid of a situation. There's something in my life that makes me afraid, and I react to it. And that is what leads my life. I am never, or rather, I am very rarely proactive. I very rarely do things because I feel that they are what needs to be done, that they are correct, that they are morally right. This is something, or healthy. Putting out content is, I think, emotionally healthy for me because it's an outlet, and also because I'm getting this information out there, and hopefully it helps someone. It either educates them or entertains them or what have you, engages them in some way. So there's that word again. I want to live a more proactive life. I've had for a very long time. Fear makes me proactive, or fear makes me reactive rather than proactive. When it comes to procrastination, I've known it for a while, but I was surprised when I went into when I was in therapy some number of years ago. My therapist dropped this on me, and she told me that I was a perfectionist. I was like, how the hell is that possible? Because to me, when you think of a perfectionist, you think of someone who is constantly working on something, constantly polishing that cannonball, trying to make that a absolute perfect sphere. When in my case, I can't do the work at all, or it's very half-assed, because even if I can overcome the initial fear of doing a project, I often cannot finish the project, or certainly cannot finish it well, because that fear is still there. It's not I've slain the dragon and I move on in happily ever afters. That fear is constantly there. It's ever present. And so I constantly have to check in with myself and battle that. Again, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I get defeated, and there's no shame in that. It sucks. I hate it. There's no shame in that. So that fear is ever present, and it prevents me from doing anything. So I certainly am not going to spend a whole lot of time polishing anything, because the idea of spending a whole lot of time on anything is terrifying. But then it was brought to my attention, the reason why I don't do things is because I'm afraid that it's going to suck, that it's going to reveal me as an imposter, that if I put something out there, I'm going to get judged, and I'm going to get judged very negatively. And my thought process is, the only way that I cannot get judged negatively is if it's perfect, if it comes out perfect. Now, at the time, I quibbled about what I mean by perfect. I would say it needs to be good. But when I was challenged on that, really it comes down to it should have little to no flaws. So basically perfect. So in that sense, I am a perfectionist. Not that I keep doing something until it's perfect. It's that I cannot do something unless I am assured, through some means, for magic or what have you, unless I am absolutely certain that what I put out there is perfect, will meet my goals and expectations perfectly. Now, obviously, that can't happen. I'm human, I'm fallible. There's no way that no one can produce perfect content. Some people can produce very, very good content. Some people can put out excellent content. And some people, try as they might, their content is never going to be great because they just simply do not have talent for it, or they have not devoted the time in order to perfect it. This sort of thing, making content, really anything, communicating, anything, you need practice. You need to devote time. You need to figure out if it's really worthwhile, and you need to devote time to getting things right. Anyway, so that's perfectionism for me. Is I do not put things out because I am afraid that I am going to get judged by the quality of the content. If someone views a lecture, they're going to be like, he got that wrong, he got that wrong, he got that wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So screw him. He shouldn't even be hired. He shouldn't even, and then they'll be like, who's his department chair? And, email him and try to get me fired. Same goes when I deliver lectures in class. So, yeah, it's a struggle. It's not going away. And I need, like I said, I have a couple, 3 coping skills that I use. But it's hard. It's frustrating that I have to keep using them. It's frustrating that they don't often work. Well, it's frustrating that they don't work at times. I don't want to use the word often. But that boils down to, I have an illness. I effectively have a disability. If I want to go to the extreme, if I had cancer, then I'm sure chemo sucks. And I'm sure that folks, when they go through it, they don't want to keep going through it. They don't want to go back. They have to convince themselves, hey, I have to put myself through this pain in order to avoid the pain of death or the pain of really bad circumstances or physical situations. And that's analogous to what I'm going. I find an analogy there in that I have to use these coping skills. I have to go through the pain of using coping skills. This is not painless. You're fighting. Well, I'm fighting with myself. I have to. My mind is telling me one thing and telling me that I'm afraid of it, and I have to confront that fear, and I have to basically tell my brain, no, what you are doing to create that fear is wrong. It's irrational. It's not what's going on in reality. It is worthwhile. I try very hard not to invalidate what I'm feeling, because it is valid. All emotions are valid. But what I need to do, or what I want to do, is coach my brain, or at least in the moment, I want to tell my brain, while you are feeling fear and while you believe this is going to lead to this, and that is valid, that is not what's going to happen if we are careful. If we try our best, if we put in the effort, then that is an unlikely outcome. It's possible. As a scientist, I have to admit that everything really is possible, but it's unlikely. It's very, very unlikely, or could be very unlikely. I have to basically convince myself that that fear doesn't need to hold me back. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that subject at the moment. I think I wanted to say more, but I got a notification, basically squirrel, and yeah, completely lost track of what the hell I was talking about. So that's what I'm doing with that. That is, if you were wondering why I don't put out content regularly, it's because of that. It's not because I don't want to put out content. It's not because I just don't give a shit, or I do care about putting out the content. And now even more so, because now I have the additional motivation that I do want to make a go of this. I do want to try to get this channel for as a second source of income. And as I said, I will put out another video about that, because currently right now, I have stated in my videos that, or in the descriptions at least, that all proceeds that I gain through PayPal or I guess it's through or Patreon, that those will go directly to the university or the observatory or the student club. I do want to keep a section of that. I do want to keep donating to them, but also, so I'm going to basically split my revenue streams if I get a second revenue stream. Anyway, that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is that I want to make content more regularly. And I wanted to put out there why I don't, and why what I am facing or what I am battling to try to bring that content out. So yeah, okay, I think I'm done. Peace out, clear skies. If you can help me out by like, share, and subscribing. I really hate saying that, but I also recognize that, you know, it's, you got to do it. You got to do it. So, yeah, I hope you all are feeling well and have a good evening or whatever.